So starting off with what you said, basically you're using a version of scheduled worry time where you write down all the things that you worry about, which takes the worry from something that's just like vague and looping in your mind into um, the specifics of what you're afraid of. And then at that point, once you know what you're actually worried about, you can decide, is this signal or noise, or is it a problem to solve or an uncertainty to let pass? And also by compartmentalizing your worry at a single time throughout the day, you're not only signaling to your mind throughout the day, like, hey, we don't talk about this until 7 tonight, and then it gives you more space throughout the day. But then it also, when you decide, I'm only going to worry at 7 tonight, you may find that you don't have as much thought action fusion at that time. You're not as worried at that time. And some of the things that you're concerned about are not as sticky at that time.
I have a separate Google Calendar where every day of the week I track how many drinks that I've had that day, how much exercise I've done, and then how many hours of sleep I've gotten the night before. So I can kind of flag if there's like a week where I've kind of drinking like more than 2 drinks every night and I haven't exercised at all and I haven't really been sleeping and I'm feeling off, then it's an easy signal for me to be like, oh, okay, I might be going into a mood shift. And also I need to stop drinking. I need to start sleeping more and I need to start exercising to get myself back into like a normal and healthy pattern.
So some people struggle more tracking when they're down or when they're really anxious because somehow by putting words to it, it makes it feel more real or people get afraid of what it means. The other version of this is difficulty tracking when you're feeling well for the reasons that you just described. So in both cases, if you think about it as courageous and challenging, and just because you're just writing it down doesn't mean it isn't challenging in and of itself. The cliche term of like starting is half the battle is really relevant here, because anything that you have to bring something into your self-awareness to accept that it's occurring and then do something to change it. So by tracking, you're bringing your more self-awareness to the process, and then you actually have a chance at understanding it and changing it.
I've definitely found if I drink a lot and I don't sleep, then the next day my anxiety is like also a lot higher than it would be otherwise.
And at this point, how do you relate to that?
If I feel like it takes a minute, like at first it feels very like out of control and like what's going on, but it takes a minute then to be like, oh wait, I've drinking a lot and I haven't slept. Like this is just my anxiety. Like I need to just like sit, have some water, and kind of let it pass, and it will pass in time.
So what's the difference between feeling a little bit of sadness or some loneliness, some regret or some guilt, and having a low mood?
I guess the first kind of feel like it's hard. It can either feel like feelings or like you were talking about, it can feel like, oh wait, this is like me and who I am. So I'm just going to like act by how I feel in the moment versus being like, wait, this is just a mood that's coming over me. And if I act by like my values and what I know I usually like, I will get back to feeling like myself faster.
For instance, let's take dating. If a month ago we're talking about dating and you're thinking, well, I like those people, but they don't, there were some reasons why we weren't a great match, and the circumstances of our time make it hard to be a good match. Okay, we can have that conversation. A month later in a mood state, if the same conversation is not only am I not compatible with this person, but I'm never going to be compatible with anyone, this is going to last forever and there's nothing I can do about it, that is a really different conversation about the same thing and is more indicative of a mood state than the actual reality of your dating life. If you can use things like dating or work or exercise or food that are part of our everyday life to help yourself track your mood rather than as something to stay away from, something to avoid, or something that's like shameful to look at. Those are all ways that you can actually try to bring awareness to the fluctuations in your mood. And so what I mean by that is with dating, you could notice how similar situations are happening and the story is changing. And sometimes more like generalized, again, something like this is completely my fault. It's never going to change. And there's nothing I can do about it.
I think like just being aware of the levers that make me feel good and not good have been like especially important with everything that's going on right now. Like in normal times, I live alone. So I think it's been like, and I live in like a big metro area. So I think it's hard with everything going on to be kind of afraid and to feel lonely and stuff. So just trying to figure out and remember like what makes me feel happy and stuff, and then living by that. So I think when all this started, I was like, hey, it's not feeling so great being in my apartment by myself all the time and not being able to go outside. So I was able to stay with family out of the city for a little bit, and it was nice being with people, being able to go outside, being able to exercise. And I think I realized like, oh, this is like a game changer for my mood also. And I feel a lot lifted and more positive. So just still trying to like live by what I know puts me in good moods and makes me happier with everything going on.